Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. As Hope flips over Brooke's betrayal, Ridge has a heated confrontation with Carter and gives him an ultimatum. Today on The Bold and the Beautiful, Justin warns Ridge. Hope learns that Brooke went to Ridge about the coup, and Ridge places the blame on Hope. All products and services featured are independently chosen by editors. However, Soaps.com may receive a commission on orders placed through its retail links, and the retailer may receive certain auditable data for accounting purposes. At Forrester, Justin looks over the LLC paperwork and confirms that Carter's trying to pull a fast one. He asks for 1 minute to look closer. Brooke and Ridge step aside and he exclaims, "Some friend, huh?" He thanks her for bringing this to him. Brooke says of course she wouldn't let him take his company from him. Ridge vows this will never stand up in court. His two-faced friend is trying to cheat his way into power and will cheat his way out of the company. Justin asks to take a copy with him so he can confer with a colleague. Ridge asks, "You can fix this, right?" Justin points out the CEOs signed off on this. Ridge bellows that they didn't know what they signed, that's the point. Justin will see what he can do, but warns this may be a bit more serious than he thinks. After he exits, Ridge is confident he'll find a loophole. This is such a betrayal, and not just from Carter but from Hope. Brooke nods, it's inexcusable. She thinks he needs to remember that this all began with a misunderstanding. Steffi jumped to conclusions and fired her daughter. She's not trying to justify what they're doing, but she wants to resolve it in a peaceful manner. Ridge is going to resolve it right now. In Hope's cabin, she tells Carter this is for the good of the company. Carter says Ridge won't see it that way. He'd be lying if he didn't admit he's dreading what's to come. Carter's dressing when he gets a text from Ridge, who wants to see him. Hope thinks maybe he's changed his mind and might be considering his proposal and reinstating Hope for the future. Carter would be relieved not to have to betray his friend. In the office, Ridge says to Brooke, "Now I wait for the traitor." Brooke reminds him she told him all of this in confidence. Ridge says Carter has lost his perspective. He never thought he would see him make a career-ending move like this. That's what this is, a takeover attempt. It ends today. In the cabin, Hope gushes about Carter's inspiring ideas. Ridge needs to give him a shot. If he decides to bring her back, she will owe it all to Carter. Her boyfriend tells her he won't back down. She'll have his support until the end, whatever that is. She kisses him goodbye and wishes him luck. At Forrester, Ridge paces as he waits for Carter to arrive. He flashes to the day Carter was made COO, and through some of their memorable moments. "We are family," he recalls saying. Brooke arrives at the cabin and asks Hope, "How are you?" Hope says she's fine and explains Carter was there and got a text from Ridge wanting to see him. She hopes it's good news. Brooke says, "Well, I can tell you, I know." Hope smiles, "You do?" They establish that Brooke was with Ridge. Hope asks why Ridge wanted to see Carter. Brooke asks why he wouldn't want to see him, he's his COO and trusted best friend. She eyeballs Hope and thinks she seems very distracted. "I was hoping that you would tell me yourself. I overheard you and Carter." Hope asks, "You overheard us?" Brooke exclaims that she was about to come in when she overheard them talking about a coup. Taking over Forrester Creations. Carter arrives in the main office and Ridge is seated with his back to him. He intones, "Close the door." He asks how he's doing and if he has something to tell him. Turning around he says, "No? Well, I have something to tell you. I know what you're doing. I know what you're up to." Ridge asks Carter, "Did it ever occur to you that she's just using you?" Carter asks, "Who?" Ridge replies, "Hope." He knows about the papers. He knows he's trying to take power over Steffi and him, all for Hope. "You didn't think I'd find out?" Carter asks, "How?" Ridge will trade him a how for a why. "I saw your name on the paper. You must have been freaking out, but there was no need for that because I trusted you implicitly. Not because you're my COO, because you're my best friend in the world and you stabbed me in the back." In the cabin, Hope recaps that Brooke overheard her and Carter, and realizes she told Ridge that's why he wanted to see Carter. "Mom, what are you doing? You should have talked to me first." Brooke wails, "Why? So I could be a part of your plan. No. What were you thinking? Hope complains that they were being mistreated at Forrester. They gave Ridge and Steffi every opportunity, but they wouldn't listen. Brooke says that doesn't justify a coup. Hope worries about what Carter's walking into. What will Ridge say or do now that he knows the truth? My God. In the office, Ridge asks Carter if he really thought he'd get away with this. Signing the company over to him? He's not concerned about papers, that's child's play. What he's concerned about is why he'd do this to him. Because we passed on your big idea? We're a fashion house, and we wanted to stay a fashion house, that's all. He continues, or was it because Steffi was mean to your new girlfriend? How'd that make you feel? Sad, angry, betrayed maybe. He made him COO because he always knew he'd do right by him, the company, and the family that's always been there for him and embraced him. This is how you thank them? By hooking up with Hope, by fighting her cause? Carter says it's a cause worth fighting for. Ridge pushes his chair and hollers, there's nothing worthy about any of this. What happened to you? I know what happened to you. Hope happened to you. The same way she happened to Liam and to Thomas, because that's what she does. Carter turns his head and Ridge bellows, look at me. She gets her hooks into you and she molds you and she woos you until you love her so much you can't breathe, and then she drives you away. He's stabbed his friend and brother in the back for what? For Hope. Ridge understands that Carter is frustrated that they didn't take his big idea. You know business, you know how it works. So, is it really because Steffi was mean to your little girlfriend? He betrayed all of them for that? That doesn't sound like him at all, it sounds like Hope. Stealing this company from the people that love him doesn't sound like him at all. Steffi told him Hope was in Carter's head, he didn't believe it. He wishes he had. Maybe he could have kept him from going off the deep end. I didn't see it. Sitting, Ridge asks, what do we do now? What do? I know what I want to do, I want to give you another chance. He suggests they forget about the papers. If he ends this toxic relationship, they'll be okay. Carter asks, you want me to end things with Hope? Ridge nods, get her out of your life before it's too late. As Hope sat in the quiet of her office, the weight of the conversation she just had with Brooke pressed heavily on her shoulders. The silence in the room seemed to stretch on for an eternity, her mind racing with disbelief and anger. Her mother had betrayed her, again. But this time, it was different. It wasn't just a simple misunderstanding or a minor betrayal of trust. This one cut deeper, leaving scars that might never fully heal. Hope had always looked up to Brooke, admired her for her strength, her resilience, and her unwavering ability to survive whatever life threw at her. But now, everything she thought she knew about her mother felt like a lie. The affair with Deacon, the secrets that had been kept, and the unspoken pain that had festered between them for years. It all came crashing down in an instant. Brooke's words echoed in her mind, it's not what you think, Hope. I was trying to protect you. Protect her? How could this betrayal ever be a form of protection? There was no justification, no excuse that could erase the damage that had been done. She had always known her family wasn't perfect, but she had believed that love would somehow always prevail. It was a fantasy, a dream she clung to, hoping that the love between them would always be enough to overcome any obstacle. But now that dream was shattered, like glass falling to the floor, and no amount of cleaning could ever piece it back together. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and she looked up, wiping away the remnants of the tears she hadn't even realized she was shedding. It was Carter, his face lined with concern but also the underlying tension that had been present for weeks. Hope's pulse quickened. She knew that things weren't going to be easy, especially with all that had happened. The walls of her office seemed to close in as Carter stepped inside. Hope, we need to talk, Carter began, his voice strained. I know things are difficult right now, but we can work through this, together. Hope stared at him, her thoughts still reeling. She didn't have the strength for this conversation. Her mother's betrayal was still fresh, and here Carter was, trying to bring some semblance of normalcy to a world that no longer made sense. She forced a smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. I don't know if I can do that right now, Carter. Everything feels so upside down, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Carter approached cautiously, taking a seat across from her. I get it. But we're a family, Hope. And we've always figured things out together. This, whatever this is just a bump in the road. We'll figure it out. We always do. Hope's eyes narrowed. A bump in the road, she echoed, her tone sharper than she intended. This isn't just some small issue we can sweep under the rug. This is huge, Carter. This is about trust. And I don't know if I can ever trust her again. The anger bubbled up from the pit of her stomach, threatening to spill over. How do you even expect me to forgive her for something like this? Carter exhaled slowly, his brow furrowed. I'm not asking you to forgive her right away. I'm just saying that you have to talk to her, Hope. You're both hurting right now. But the only way forward is through communication, not through silence or running away from it. The words hung in the air, and for a moment, it seemed as though time stood still. Hope didn't respond immediately, instead retreating inward as she processed Carter's words. Was he right? Was communication the key? Or was this just another way of forcing her to accept something she wasn't ready to face? Before she could find an answer, the sound of footsteps interrupted her thoughts. Ridge walked in, his face a picture of frustration and determination. Hope couldn't help but feel a sense of dread at the sight of him. Something was off, and she had a feeling it had nothing to do with her conversation with Brooke. Ridge's eyes flickered between Hope and Carter, his jaw tightening. We need to talk, he said, his voice low, laced with anger. Now. Hope glanced at Carter, who stood up and gave her a sympathetic look before heading toward the door. But as he passed Ridge, the tension between them was palpable. Ridge and Carter had never been the best of friends, and today, the air was thick with unresolved issues. What's going on, Ridge? Hope asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. Carter, Ridge muttered, his gaze fixed firmly on the younger man. I need to have a word with you. Carter stopped in his tracks, his posture stiffening. What is it, Ridge? We've already talked about this, he said, his voice guarded. Ridge didn't hesitate. No, we haven't, he said sharply. I've been patient with you, Carter. I've given you the benefit of the doubt, but enough is enough. You've been acting like everything's fine, but I can see it. I know what you've been doing behind closed doors. And I won't stand for it anymore. Carter's face flushed, and for a moment, it seemed like he might lash out. But instead, he held his ground. Ridge, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I think you do, Ridge shot back. You've been playing both sides, Carter. You've been with my daughter and Hope, all while keeping things from me. I've given you enough chances to make it right, but now I'm done. You've been deceptive and reckless, and it ends now. Hope watched the confrontation unfold, her heart racing. This wasn't just a simple argument. Ridge was furious, and Carter was on the defensive, both men holding onto their pride and refusing to back down. The tension between them was palpable, like a fuse waiting to ignite. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, Ridge, Carter finally said, his voice calm but tinged with frustration. But I won't let you dictate my life. I'm doing what I think is right. And if you can't accept that, then we'll just have to deal with it. Ridge's eyes narrowed. You've got one chance, Carter, he said coldly. Figure it out. If I find out you've been playing us both, you're out. No second chances. Hope could feel the weight of Ridge's ultimatum. She knew her father was angry, but this was different. He was making a choice. And she wasn't sure if Carter could live with it. As Carter left the room, the atmosphere felt like it had thickened with an unspoken promise of impending consequences. Hope turned to Ridge, her voice barely a whisper. What does this mean, Dad? Ridge looked at her, his face softening, though the tension was still palpable. It means that we need to stand firm, Hope. The truth always comes out. And when it does, we need to be ready for it. As the door closed behind them, Hope was left in the silence, torn between family loyalty and the painful truth of betrayal. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: nothing would ever be the same again.